Hi, I'm Allison from Ocean Ambassadors Canada. I'm really excited to be with you today to explore the intertidal zone. We know that your class can't come to the beach to be with us, so we're going to bring the beach to you, and we really hope to see you soon.
Hi, I'm Nima. We're lucky to be able to explore the intertidal zone on the traditional territories of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam First Nations.
Hi, my name's Lauren. We are going to be talking about what the intertidal zone is and exploring all the different plants and animals that live within the intertidal zone. And to finish off, we're going to tell a story, The Orca Chief by Roy Henry Vickers.
Hi, my name's Erica. We're here today to share with you our love of the ocean, and we want to be respectful to all of the plants and animals that live in this intertidal zone. So, follow me. So when you get to the beach, you'll notice how sometimes the water is higher. We call that high tide, where Nima's standing, and then the tide will slowly go out to where Lauren's standing, and that's what we call low tide. So the space in between where Nima and Lauren are standing is what we call the intertidal zone, and that's what we will be exploring today.
The plants and animals in the intertidal zone spend half of their life in the water and half of their life out of the water. Let's check out some ways they've adapted to this environment.
When I come to the intertidal zone, the first thing I see are these white animals that are attached to all these rocks. These are barnacles, and in this case they're acorn barnacles. When the tide is out and they're above water, they close up really tight. But when the tide comes up and they're underwater, their cilia, which are their feet, come out and they start to feed.
So when you're walking along the shoreline, there is a lot of fun slimy vegetation to learn about. This right here is called sugar kelp, and you can see it has these roots at the bottom here that help it attach to rocks, kind of like a tree has roots that helps it attach to the earth. And in my other hand is this type of algae called sea lettuce, and it's actually edible and tastes delicious when it's dried out in a salad. So traditional coastal communities have this saying that when the tide is out, the table is set. So there is so much nutrition just in this intertidal zone that we're exploring.
One of my favorite sea plants is rockweed, or you can call it by its much spookier name, dead man's fingers, because they kind of look like creepy fingers reaching out of the water. And why they float is because plants get their energy from the sun, so the rockweed knows that when it's underwater it has to float to get its nutrients to grow. And another really cool thing about it is that you can pop these little bubbles and get all this goo out from the inside, and you can use it as sunscreen.
Another cool animal that we find in the intertidal zone are limpets. And you can see on this rock here, there's little tiny black dots. Those are limpets. And there's some bigger ones here on this big rock. And limpets are animals that eat algae that's attached to rocks. And they have a hard shell. They have a really strong foot that attaches them to rocks so that they don't get blown off by the waves. And inside of the shell, they actually have rows of teeth and a tongue, and they use their tongue to bring the algae to their teeth and then eat it. And what's kind of cool is they have their tongue, they use their tongue to move along the rock. So their tongue goes in like a wave-like motion, and the limpets can move slowly along the rock.
These rocks in the intertidal zone provide an amazing habitat for many plants and animals. Along with the barnacles and various seaweeds, Pacific blue mussels call these rocks home. Pacific blue mussels use their beards to hold onto these rocks. Much like the barnacles, they keep their shells tightly closed when the tide is out, and when the tide comes back over and they're underwater, they open up and start to feed. They feed on really, really small little organisms floating in the water.
The intertidal zone is full of Dungeness crabs, but they can be a little bit hard to find because they live underneath rocks. So if you're going to go on a crab hunt, just be really careful when you lift up those rocks, because that's like lifting the roof off someone's house. So you're going to see a whole bunch of little crabs running around under there, and it's totally okay to pick them up as long as you're really careful. When you pick them up and they're in your hand, if you look really closely, you're going to see tiny little hairs on those crabs, and that's how they sense the world around them. So that's how they smell and they feel things in the water and in the air. Another really cool thing about these crabs is that they're a little bit like snakes in that they molt off their shells when they get bigger. So sometimes when you're walking around you might see the molted shell of a crab, and then sometimes you might see a crab with a really soft shell that is just molted as well.
I think one of the cutest things that you might be lucky enough to see are harbor seals. I like to think of harbor seals as the puppies of the ocean because they're really curious, and you'll see them popping up their heads to take a breath and often wanting to know what's going on. So if you're out paddling, they'll pop up sometimes and then sometimes even follow you for a little while. One of the really cool adaptations of harbor seals are their ability to hold their breath underwater. So they'll dive down and they'll hunt for crabs and all different kinds of fish, and they can follow them and catch them all while holding their breath.
One of my favorite animals to find in the intertidal zone are rockweed isopods. Rockweed isopods are shrimp-like creatures that have 7 pairs of clawed legs. These legs are super strong, and they use them to grip onto rock so that the waves in the intertidal zone don't pull them out into the ocean. Another adaptation that they have to protect themselves is camouflage. Their green color allows them to blend in with the surrounding seaweed.
So one of my favorite things to do at the beach while exploring the intertidal zone is bird watch. One of the most popular birds that hang out around the seashore is the seagull. And seagulls are super intelligent birds. They feed off of lots of creatures along the sea line like clams, shellfish, squid, and they have little tricks up their sleeve. So one of them is actually tapping on the ground super lightly to make earthworms think that it's raining outside, so that the earthworms come up and seagulls get to have a yummy afternoon snack. One of our superstars of the ocean is the sea star here, and they're beautiful creatures. They show up in all different types of colors, and you'll usually find them with 5 arms, like this guy here. But they can grow up to 50 arms in some parts of the ocean. They're part of a group of invertebrates, meaning they don't have any backbone, and surprisingly, they don't have a brain and no blood.
The next animal we're going to check out is one of the tiniest but mightiest animals in the intertidal zone. They're kind of hard to see right now, but you're going to see thousands of them when you get down to the beach. I've got a little cluster of them in my hand right now, and these are some turban snails. They're really similar to a regular garden snail, but they've actually adapted to being in the water and out of the water. So the reason why these things are so special is because when they're out of the water, they have this kind of membrane, which is like a hard but gooey flap that comes down on the inside of their shell, and that keeps them nice and moist when the tide is out. The really cool thing about them though is that that little gooey flap is the same stuff as our fingernails. So we're not so different to them after all.
Thanks so much for joining us today as we explored the beach. We really hope that in the next while you get a chance to go down to the beach with your family and see what you can find.
And we'd love to hear from you, so share any videos or photos, stories that you've had at the beach this summertime. We want to connect with all of you ocean ambassadors.
We look forward to when we can explore the beach together.
Bye!